Ladies and gentlemen, it appears that Mr. Vars2 has gone ahead and uploaded some more Wuthering Waves content. And this one is entirely focused on the new player experience and the best way to play with an updated progression guide. It's been quite a while since I think like any WuWa creators have come out with like a progression guide, especially given, you know, all of the new updates that have come in. So I'm excited to see what Vars has to share because, well, I'm gonna be real, I'm not a new player, and naturally, right, there might be some additional things along the line, some additional tips that I might be able to fill in as well, if there's anywhere to, you know, go with the points that he's making. So without further ado, let's go ahead, let's see what he has to share, and get right on into it.
Wuthering Waves has been progressing well into version 2 at this point, and with the game progressively gaining more attention and praise for its story, combat, quality of life improvements and whatnot, there has been a steady influx of new players joining the game, and while most Day 1 beginner guides should still have good information, in light of all that's changed and all the new stuff we have, I wanted to make an updated step-by-step progression guide for any new or returning player in Wuthering Waves. In this video, I'll be giving a quick overview of—
I have my own like new player guide as well, but that was way back at like the start of like version 2.0. So that was, I think, when the biggest influx of new players actually was. I feel like this second one might have been a lot more impactful during 2.4. And I'm not gonna lie, I think I'm gonna come out with my own fleshed out one for 3.0, because I do think that's going to be another big resurgence
of what you should do during all stages of the game, from when you just start out all the way to endgame, as well as offer some tips on how you can best manage your resources and plan ahead for a smooth experience. Understand this will be a general guide video, so there's only so much time I can spend on any one part.
Looks like bro's using some old footage. The game don't look like that no more, Mr. Vars2. The game don't be looking like that no more. They got that auto-tune button.
If you're looking for detailed character or team building guides, I recommend you check out my other content. But anyway, let's not waste any more time and begin. Acting under the assumption that you're just starting out or are relatively new to the game, we'll tackle the early stages of WuWa to kick things off. My first and foremost step when it comes to handling the early game is resource conservation. A massive pitfall inexperienced gacha players run into is that they overinvest materials and whatnot into characters and items that may not necessarily offer the best return on investment.
This is a big one. Let me just give you all a personal anecdote that I have. You'll notice on my account over here, I have this thing called a level 70 unit. I raised this guy to level 70, took him into like one of the first couple of floors of the TOA, and then realized this character's a steaming pile of dog shit in the hands of 90% of players, right? And I was just like, man, I wish I could refund everything that I spent on this guy, all the mats, all the EXP, all the skill mats, all of that, and just reset him back to level 1. You don't want that experience, especially knowing that there are like tier lists, guides, priorities, so many more characters in the game. You don't want to fall into the pit trap of raising this dude and then keep him at level 70, and then basically all these resources that you put in are just like, what are you doing with them? They're essentially wasted. That's a day 1 of this game, version 1.0 era mistake.
For example, let's say you get a copy of Jinshin. At first glance, she appears to be a solid all-rounder, and to her credit she is, no denying that. However, her longevity in the late to end game leaves a lot to be desired, and with how gacha games, WuWa included, intentionally constrain the amount of resources you can grind for, you'll end up hurting your progression in the long run if you spend recklessly. As such, the main priority is to only use what you absolutely need to as you progress through the early stages of Wuthering Waves. From the main story quest line.
Okay, so I think that this is an opportunity over here to really, for me to expand on this point. If you're a person that's looking to clear the TOA as fast as possible, then the priority that you should have for actually raising out your units should be like this. First things first, you want to raise, let's just say, 3 DPS units as high as you possibly can, right? That should be the goal. You want to build out around 3 teams and raise 3 DPS units as high as you can. Then you take the sub-DPS for the DPS unit that you've already raised, and then do a moderate amount of investment on them, right? Probably just get them on something like a Moonlit Clouds Echo set, an Empyrene Anthem Echo set, something along those lines, so that they can be built with way less resources, but then still provide these meaningful buffs, like a massive amount of attack, or, for the Impermanent Terran, a nice 12% damage boost. So that's what I would recommend for all new players, is go for a DPS that, I know it's ironic that I showed Cartithia. This is why I actually don't call her that great for new players, right? Because another character, hypothetically, right, that scales off of attack, let's just say, and for the example, right, I'll just use like a Camellia or something. You could just use like a Sanhua on like a Moonlit Clouds, right? And they just kind of like go from there. Where's my Sanhua? Yeah, like this is the build, like this would be frequently a build that I run on this unit. Put on a random 3-cost Echo for Moonlit Clouds. Don't really care about the substats too much. And then just kind of like go from there. This type of unit should be the second built priority. And then the third should be a bunch of different supports, right? These should be the last individuals on the roster that are getting a high level of investment from you. Because a lot of them can actually do their job starting from just level 50. And this is what my skill tree actually looks like for my Verena in version 2.6 of the game. I got her in 1.0, and this is what my skill tree looks like. Honestly, all you really need is this inherent that you can get at like level 50 for an attack boost, and then go from there, and then just put her on random. I mean, you can. I use her in endgame content all the time, and she's got a fucking +0 echo. I forgot this was on her. I didn't even notice. I didn't even notice that she had this on her. That's how little investment those characters, those support characters, even like a Baija as well, actually need. So, however, make sure you do invest in like these variations and stuff if you have the opportunity. That's what I would just do at like a very quick summary for prioritizing investments.
In the long run if you spend recklessly. As such, the main priority is to only use what you absolutely need to as you progress to the early stages of Wuthering Waves. From the main story questline to overworld exploration and basic combat, the game should be relatively easy for you to take on without spending that many materials. Obviously, as you progress in account rank, the world difficulty will increase at a commensurate rate, so what you're going to want to do is focus on completion and accumulation. I'm not saying you need to rush your early game experience and binge everything to the point where you burn yourself out, but the faster you unlock everything, the more efficiently you can make use of your limited supply of items. The main way to acquire a bunch of free materials, experience, what have you, is by doing every possible thing the game has to offer.
I think this is good advice. Raising your world level as fast as possible is, without a doubt, the best way to get the most efficiency out of your, well, your wave plates, right? And this is your time-constrained resource. And the thing is, right, you can literally see, it's like, oh, you can see what the rewards are in Phase 1 when you start the game. I can only get blue and green shit. But now over here, I'm getting purple and gold. Huh. And you'll notice, right, there's a certain point, there's a certain threshold where you really should try to rush to. I don't think you need to rush to Phase 8, but getting to Phase 5 is where it's really, really, really important, right? Especially for tacit fields. Because you're going to notice over here, right? Oh, I start getting gold tuners and gold echoes at a certain point. You start unlocking them at Soul Phase 4. And then when you eventually get to a certain level, I believe it's around 7, you lose the ability to even get like I think it's like Soul 5 or 6. You lose the ability to get anything other than gold echoes. That's something that you can do as well.
Doing every possible thing the game has to offer. Complete any and every quest you can find, both the ones mandatory for story progression as well as the world quests, of which many are necessary for unlocking certain parts of the overworld exploration. On that note, while it may be tedious, exploration is inextricably linked with the game's overall progression. Unlike in Genshin, for example, where exploration is sort of an optional side thing you can do, world option is absolutely crucial for your progression in WuWa because 1. The game is a Pokédex of sorts. In order to gain access to higher tiered echoes, the game's equipment system, you'll need to collect any and every unique echo type in the game. The only way to do that is...
I see. Yeah, so basically what Vars is talking about over here is the databank, and this is what guarantees whether or not you get gold echoes. And so, as you collect more of these bad boys, right, you get a higher level, and then I think at level 21, you guarantee 5 stars on all your echoes. You gotta raise your UL as well to be able to unlock higher databank levels. So that's where having the higher soul phases, that's where it really comes in for this one. When it comes to the gear accumulation side.
By going through the overworld and killing everything you come across. Kill everything that moves and pick up everything that can be interacted with, whether you think you'll need it or not.
And this is how you level up the databank The UL is how you unlock the higher levels, the ability to get to them, but to actually unlock the stuff, well, you gotta do a little bit of that grinding.
Because one day you might. Many day 1 players like myself basically spend a good week or two running from corner to corner, unlocking everything and collecting echoes to get our databanks to level 20. The sooner you do it, the faster you can get higher tiered echoes that will ultimately gear you towards the endgame.
I would say the priority for rushing story content, like Vars was saying before, is definitely to get to SOL 4 to SOL 5. And when you're on SOL 4 to SOL 5, you unlock the max level of the databank alongside the highest possible tier of drops from your dailies. So that would be probably the best way to go. Bum rush this as fast as you can if you're trying to get the most out of your daily resources, but don't feel the pressure to take it a little bit more slow if you're really enjoying the exploration of the story content, because at the end of the day, right, these first couple of phases go super fast, but it's not like you're going ahead, right, and you need to, like, really rush it because you're missing out on, what, a day or two of higher drop rates? It's not really that big of a deal. Don't feel too much FOMO from the daily system, because believe me when I say this, once you reach the end game of this game, you'll be able to build whoever you want, whenever you want, at a really, really fast pace.
In addition to upgrading your databank level, your union level, aka your account level, is top priority. Part of why I recommend you do every single quest possible is to, of course, gain union experience to increase your account level. In doing so, you'll obtain access to higher level domains that offer better quantity and quality of rewards per waveplate.
There's a reason why I was talking about this one first, because you need this to unlock all the other ones.
WuWa's energy system. I know for a new player it may seem overwhelming to have to do so many quests and explore so many areas, but realistically, there's no other way to go about it. You could opt to go for a more slow burn route by simply using your daily supply of energy, but doing quests, the guidebook, daily missions, whatever events are taking place at the time, and especially world exploration can help you get that much further ahead. Not to mention that
apparently you can reach UL 40 in 1 day if you really grind. That's like UL 40, SOL like 4, I believe, in 1 day if you really put in the effort.
that's where the bulk of the game's free asteroids are found, so it will be a bit of a grind, but it will pay off in the long run.
SOL 5? Oh yeah, you start off at 1. So yeah, SOL 5 and then UL 40 can actually be done in a day if you're that dedicated.
Incidentally, regarding waveplates, honestly just use only the ones you accumulate over time. Do not use any crystal solvents yet. As for what to spend your waveplates on, best use of them in the early game is to farm the resource domains and or take on world bosses to level up your units. Don't bother going to tester fields quite yet, except for trying to get echoes to level up your databank. I recommend making liberal use of the Wuthering Waves interactive map, as it will give you the exact locations of quite literally everything in the game. That way you won't have to meander aimlessly and waste precious time. So, to summarize the early game, basically go through the story quest and get as far as you can, only using experience materials and whatnot to get your characters, whomever they are, to just good enough to complete the obligatory fights. Then you'll want to take a bit of time to explore and complete every possible world quest you have access to, during which kill every enemy you come across and work towards achieving databank 20 and leveling your account rank as well. Now that you've begun your—
I would say that counts as about right. I would say the second that you're UL 40 and you've unlocked SOL level 5, you are essentially out of the early game. So I think a lot of this discussion that's going to be happening next should be focused a lot more on the intermediate, like gear grinding, echo building, that sort of stuff.
your progression, we have made it to mid-game, at which point you might be asking, when do I get to start spending resources and gearing up my characters? Technically, you were able to do it from the very beginning, but the reason I advise waiting until now to start thinking about that is because, like I said, you'll get more resources and wherewithal to upgrade the characters in question once you get higher quality gear. For example, there's no point investing in green, blue, or purple echoes. Wait until you get gold ones.
My take on this is, it's not that big of a deal to level up green, blue, and purple echoes. Just know that they will be replaced immediately and that you kind of are just only using them for the raw stat bonuses. Because I would dare say that there's one thing in the game that would prevent you from doing that, right? And some could call it a pitfall. I don't think it's really that deep, though, because this is essentially it. If you go into synthesis, right, if you want to upgrade your purple echoes, you would have to use something called purple tuners. Right? And you'll notice, oh, Saint, you still have some purple tuners. The unfortunate part is that it's a 5-to-1 ratio. And so even if you have 174 purple tuners, which is actually quite a lot, that's like from the exploration, right? That converts into about 34 echoes or 34 tuners, gold tuners. And that's like 3 substat rolls, right? Versus 100 something of these purple ones, which can be a lot of substats on purple echoes. And if the purple echoes are going to be enough to make your early game experience go by a lot faster, i.e., you can get to UL 40, you can get to SOL level 5, you can do the story quests, the exploration, all of that significantly faster because you threw on a crit rate 4-cost purple echo, then go for it, right? You're spending a little bit of your RNG leveling up resource to be able to clear the baseline content a lot faster. Just don't try to min-max these and look for like double crit and stuff like that. But don't feel hesitant to level them, because at the end of the day, the conversions themselves aren't particularly high, so you're not losing out on too much by, going from 174 purple tuners down to 100, because you only need like 70 to build out a full set.
First thing you want to do is begin planning out a proper team. Wuthering Waves might have one of the most generous new player experiences of all time, especially following the anniversary. Here's what you have access to if you're just joining the game now. The Novice Discount Banner.
I'm actually very excited to see what's available. Though I would say this might be something that actually, just for like organizational purposes, I feel like people could low-key start planning their teams in like the early game phase. And I think this point goes hand in hand with the don't waste resources point, right? That Vars actually brought up earlier in the video. Because what's the best way to save resources? Knowing where you're not going to spend.
Here's what you have access to if you're just joining the game now. The Novice Discount banner enables you to pull a 5-star character very quickly, as all standard pulls are 20% off on it, letting you get access to a standard banner unit fast. Then once you finish the banner, you can select a 5-star to have as a guaranteed pull on your next time getting a 5-star.
I would say there's reroll potential here. I don't think it's necessary, but you can easily go ahead and like reroll your account to ensure that you get one of these two characters. I would say Verena is naturally the highest priority, and you might even want to skip Encore completely, depending on who your first couple of pulls actually are. But yeah, these two are definitely considered the best standard units in the game currently. Verena for natural, very, very good, very, very good high-tier support reasons, and then Encore being the best main DPS that's on the standard banner. But likewise, you could just have a main DPS be one of your first limited pulls, because you're going to have enough.
Then once you finish the banner, you can select a 5-star to have as a guaranteed pull on your next time getting a 5-star.
Saints should talk about the starter banners being a trap. How are they a trap? What, because you might regret pulling Shorekeeper?
Among the 5 to go for, definitely pick Verena. Verena is by far the best standard 5-star character to go for and will be a mainstay in your roster for a long while to come. Now, on top of the choice banner, you're also able to flat out receive a free standard 5-star upon completing the beginner event. If you selected Verena for your choice banner character, I recommend getting Encore for this one or vice versa. Encore is the second best standard 5-star character and also a DPS unit, so right away you have access to a strong attacker and a very strong healing support. But that's not all you'll get. New accounts will be given the opportunity to pull on the starter banners, a character and weapon banner that enables you to select any 5-star character and weapon that came out of version 1 as your guarantee.
And I would dare say it's pretty clear who the best pick is on this banner. Let's hear what Vars. He already led with it, so it's
banner that enables you to select any 5-star character and weapon that came out of version 1 as your guarantee. Go for Shorekeeper. She is unequivocally the single most crucial character in Wuthering Waves and definitively the best support in the game by leaps and bounds. No other unit comes close. Trust me, it'll thank me later. As for the weapon, Stringmaster, by far the best weapon in the game as it
I agree with both takes.
It's usable across all manner of rectifier characters, one of which being Encore, so you already have an attacker who can make the most of it. Definitely the best pull value out of any weapon.
I think Vars' strat of get Verena and Encore from the 2 free standard units, get Stringmaster and Shorekeeper with your limited pulls. You also get the free Sanhua from getting a certain UL. And so you will have like a 1.0 meta team ready to go. Yeah,
To repeat, Shorekeeper and String Master should be your choices for the starter banners.
I would say the only thing is that there's an issue with the pity on these banners in that the pity won't roll over. So just make sure that you, I think there's a couple of things that you should do. I would re-roll to see if I get Shorekeeper without losing a 50-50 on the beginner banner. Because unfortunately, you can lose a 50-50 on the beginner banner. I would re-roll if I lose the 50-50. Because then otherwise, right, you'd have to go to 160 total to be able to secure her. Re-roll until you get her without losing 50-50. And then get the String Master weapon, and then kind of like go from there. On the flip side, while pity doesn't roll over on this beginner banner, you can still actually pull doubles on it. You can pull doubles on this. The banner doesn't just like disappear if you end up getting the unit twice. So in a funny way, right, you can get really screwed, but you can also get way more than you're actually supposed to from these starter banners. So, it really is. I'm not saying re-roll until you get a double, but it is possible for that to happen. So just keep that in mind.
Out of any weapon. To repeat, Shorekeeper and String Master should be your choices for the starter banners. It goes without saying, depending on when you see this, your options for what characters to pull for can differ based on who is available. For the sake of posterity, let's assume the only units you have available are Shorekeeper, Verena, Encore, whoever you got for your guaranteed 20% discount 5-star, and all the free 4-stars you get throughout your adventure. Sanhua, Baichi, Yuanwu, Chisha, Yangyang, and of course all versions of Rover. A decent early game team you can make that will hold you down for a fair length of time is Havoc Rover plus Dungeon. Dungeon is not available for free, so it could depend on what 4-stars are available on banner, but theoretically you should be able to pull at least one copy of her if you go through your standard pulls. There aren't that many 4-stars in the game.
So this is actually one of the supporting arguments for not having a lot of 4-star units. Can you go into Genshin Impact today and be like, you know what? Hey, I got like 50 standard pulls. I'm probably going to get a copy of Chevreuse, right? Hell no, brother. Hell no. You got about 50 other 4-star units that you got to contend for on the standard banner. In WuWa, how many standard 4-stars you got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's not a lot. That's not a lot. You actually have close to a 10% chance of getting the 4-star that you want on the standard banner every time the 4-star pity comes up. You have a 10% chance of getting the one that you want. That's pretty good if we're frankly being real here.
Havoc Rover, Dungeon, and Shorekeeper or Verena make for a very serviceable team. You're gonna want to get Rover to 90 anyway, and Dungeon can be worth leveling as well on account of her being a good secondary unit for several Havoc DPS units.
I think getting Rover to 90 is highly dependent on one thing. If you're planning on using Havoc Rover. If you're not planning on using Havoc Rover though, Rover actually does not need to be level 90. And getting a character to level 90 is actually quite expensive. It's quite expensive on the experience and credit side. And so, once again, unless you plan on playing them as a Havoc DPS for a significant part of the early game, I don't recommend taking them to level 90. But if you are, go for it. Because again, this is a very affordable, very good team, assuming you're using Havoc Rover, not these two.
Another team you can go for is Encore, Sanhua, and Shorekeeper or Verena.
Oh yeah, this is a gimme. Sanhua is free, by the way.
Encore is a very solid unit, and everyone gets a free copy of Sanhua, so putting these two together alongside Shorekeeper or Verena, whichever of the two you aren't using in the Havoc Rover team, can give you two very accessible and decently strong parties to get you through the mid-game.
You'll never use this team though, assuming you have one of the two Havoc DPSs in the game. And so this is what I mean by make sure that you're going to use Havoc Rover, because let's just say, right, you pull a Frolova, or you pull a Camellia. There's not really any reason at all now for you to ever use Havoc Rover. Because Camellia can use the same exact teammates, so can Frolova, and the end result, right, is that you're going to be double dipping in attribute coverage that's not going to be necessary at all. So that's kind of what I'm talking about over here, and that's why what's on banner and who you plan on pulling matters so much. Similarly, right, in the next version, you pull Galbrena. Probably doesn't make that much sense then to go for Encore, right? Because Galbrena's going to be a fusion DPS as well. And maybe, right, because she's heavy attack oriented, she's not going to work with Sanhua, but then you can just get a Mortefi to work with her instead. And that's like another sort of like downside to the whole to this whole situation, especially heading into version 2.6. That's why it's just like, that's why I can appreciate this video and these suggestions in particular though, because it's not always going to be a Camellia for Lova on banner, right? It's not always going to be a Galbraina on banner. And I would say on average, these are without a doubt the highest quality teams that you can produce early on in the game.
Once you get access to gold echoes, you can now start working on gearing up those two teams. Since we're still not at the end game, you're gonna want to be as sparing.
He didn't mention String Master needed for Encore. Okay, I think I'm just gonna ban you from my chat because you're clearly actually disabled. He literally said get String Master off the beginner banner like 3 times. Are you just genuinely fucking stupid? How are you this dumb?
Still not at the end game, you're gonna want to be as sparing as possible. Don't overspend echo experience and tuners trying to get the best substats you can. 3 out of 5 will do just fine. Remember, your target.
I'm not gonna lie, this was a pretty crazy fucking echo. I'm gonna be real with you over here. I don't know why he decided to demonstrate this one as like a 3 out of 5 is fine. This looks low key like this is almost god tier, assuming it's a chain Lee piece.
Target is to reach endgame as quickly as possible. Instead of trying to min-max echoes, it's more preferable for you to focus on character level, weapon level, and skill level. Those offer guaranteed value.
I would say if you're really trying to progress the TOA as fast as possible, just go for, in your investments, go for a double crit. Don't even care. Okay, well, like, something like this is obviously pretty good, but even if this didn't have the attack, you can still use it to clear endgame. And then you can go back and then optimize the rest of your pieces later. You can also miss, and in my opinion, this is something that people don't do enough. If the rest of your substats are really good, like imagine if I had this piece, right? If I remove the critical damage, it still might actually be okay. It's low-key better to have like a lot of crit rate or like miss a crit damage roll than it is to miss like a crit rate roll. Don't look at like these insane 5 out of 5 pieces that some people might have because, well, they're like day 1 players and then think that's exactly what you need as well to clear TOA. You might need a bit more investment for the higher floors that got added in version 2.6, but for the side tower specifically and even the first 2 hazard towers, you don't need that high of a level of investment. It's definitely not necessary at all. And I think some people, they do kind of like conflate really, really good echo rolls with their ability to clear endgame a bit too much. Echo rolls will make a difference up to a point, but oftentimes they're not going to be like the differentiating factor for most players.
Figure out what order to prioritize, take some time reading through or watching guides on each individual unit. Prime One's a good place to start. They offer you information on every unit in the game, along with some other general guides. While working on your starting teams,
I like how he didn't shill himself too much over there.
Be sure to
WuWa's.
continue exploring the map, collecting echoes, and getting your account level up as much as you can. By late game, your characters should all be getting close to level 90 with a full set of echoes and weapons.
The only characters that you need at level 90 to full clear the endgame is your DPSs. Much like I said earlier on, you only, like, the second you unlock level 90, your 3 to 4 DPS characters that you're using in the TOA should be the first ones maxed out immediately. Your supports can still be level 50, they can still be level 60, with, like, +0 echoes in some spots. Your sub DPSs can still be level 60, 70, or 80 on Moonlit Clouds, but your DPSs, by the time you unlock level 90, those should be the first 3 characters fully built on your account. And then everyone else is like mugging it with like some hobo shit.
Majority of late game will be spent getting ready for you to take on the endgame, that being Tactical Hologram, Tower of Adversity, and Wuthering Wastes. There's no rule saying you should wait until you max out your units before so much as attempting them.
You can get close to full clearing even when you're at level 80 actually. And these holograms, they start at like level 40. The TOA has a bunch of introductory floors, and Wuthering Waves has introductory floors as well. So you definitely shouldn't be waiting until level 90 to do any of these, just seeing how far you can go, even when you're in the early game or the mid-game stages.
Suggest you do so actually to try to get as many rewards as you can, such as the lower difficulty holograms or doing as much of tower and whimpering that you're capable of. You don't have
good advice, but then again, right? Again, if you're only like the odds part about the structure of this video is that it's clearly split out into like early, middle, and late game, right? But there's still stuff that's going to be in the mid-game category that you're going to do in the early game, right? Or still do in the late game. And there's going to be stuff in the late game category that you're actually doing in like the early game. So it's really just about, you got to actually know how this structure is actually going. Because if you're only starting out WuWa or TOA the second you hit level 90 and you haven't touched it beforehand, I'm going to be real with you, brother. You are griefing.
You have to perfectly clear all towers through all stages of Whimpering to get rewards. So the end goal of Wuthering Waves is to have as many characters as possible, to make as many teams as possible, to account for as many scenarios as possible. Once again, what you have access to differs from one person to another depending on when you see the video. And no matter what, whether you're a free-to-play player or a spender, it will take time for you to achieve that. For the time being, we'll focus on the minimum requirements for each game mode. By this point, you should have collected a solid amount of stuff from questing to exploration to farming and whatnot to level up and upgrade a decent chunk of characters. In order to fully clear every tactical hologram, you'll want to have at least 2 bossing parties. I say 2 because in the event a hologram resists a certain attribute, you can play the second party. The vast majority of limited 5-star characters are decently capable of taking on tactical hologram, considering the only condition to achieve all the rewards is to kill the boss.
I'm not gonna lie, I would just say from like a player perspective, I feel like the hologram one should have been the last one. That's my take, because I feel like holograms, there are a lot of people I feel like that clear TOA, that clear WuWa, that don't do holograms. Because holograms have one element to them that I think puts off a lot of newer players from doing them. They'll one-shot you. No other content in the game will one-shot you, except for this. And that alone can, you know, be like a bit of a pain point for some people. Plus, they give very little ass right.
There's no time limit or anything. That is, unless you're a tryhard. Realistically, you can kill max difficulty holograms using a 4-star attacker like Denshin if you're dedicated enough. But for the purposes of this video, the aforementioned Encore and Havoc Rover teams can do just fine. Tower of Adversity is a bit more nuanced than that, as you'll need 4 teams to clear all 3 towers. Technically, through character manipulation, you actually only need 3 parties to full clear since
I would say 3.5. And that's why I say 3 teams, because you can raise like a bunch of characters to like level 70 or 80. I remember how at the start of the video I said my Calcharo's useless. He is now, but in the past, I did actually use him to clear like floors 1 to 3 in the TOA, but his days are done.
the first 2 or 3 chambers
Like this. I would use Calcharo here and shit like that.
on the side towers, you can honestly run any combination of units or even an incomplete party to get through them.
And that's why having all of those 4-star characters, your Danjins, your Rovers, and stuff like that is so helpful. Because let's just say, right, that you phase out. Remember back in this part of the video, we were talking about all these free-to-play teams that you could build? The Encore Sanhwas, the Havoc Rover Danjins. When you phase them out and you build your full 5-star teams, you're still going to have your Encore. You're still going to have your Sanhwa. You're still going to have your Havoc Rover and your Danjin. You can just run these teams without the Shorekeeper, without the Verita, and then go use them, well, in floors 1 to 3 in the TOA. You can see how the TOA is pretty much intentionally designed now, right? For you to get more and more of those limited characters on banner, and you're essentially rewarded for your prior investments by being able to use that Encore, use that Havoc Rover, the Danjins and the Sanhwas in these spots after you've gotten your shiny new toys ready to go.
Party to get through them. For simplicity's sake, just assume you need 4 teams. Once again, the Encore and Havoc Rover teams are still usable in this situation, but you'll still need a 3rd and 4th party. To repeat for the umpteenth time, whatever is available can vary greatly, but let's assume you're watching the video right when I uploaded it, in which case we have Yuno available. Even without Augusta, Yuno is a worthwhile tower character, and you can easily run a team with herself, Chinchin, and Shorekeeper.
Yeah, that was a good team.
It's not the best use of her, but considering you have access to no one else, you're gonna have to make the most of it.
The unfortunate part is I don't think Yuno's like that great of a main DPS. I think there's a lot of people that are heavily overstating her numbers, especially in like her main DPS rotation. I'm just going to be real with you over here. I think there's a couple too many people that are going to, after this TOA reset, realize, oh, just because my Yuno had a massive damage buff doesn't mean that she's actually like the best DPS ever. However, she is multi-rolled enough, has the heavy attack damage buff, and is, I think, high enough value to be considered a good pick for newer players. especially if you've already pulled SK and stuff on banner.
That actually brings me to an important point. Understand that it will take a fair length of time for you to actually get enough parties built up to clear the endgame.
My Yuno solo cleared the side tower with a level 90 Hikari. A corpse can solo clear the side tower against level 90 Hikari. What she has no HP. How is that?
With all the free stuff new players get, it will undeniably take a while for you to simply get enough units to clear the game for the sheer fact that you straight up cannot get 4 separate teams built up in the same version. As a day 1 player myself, I wasn't able to comfortably clear Tower of Adversity until I believe version 1.2 or 1.3.
I wasn't able to clear TOA until about version 1.1, some part through it. I was a very sweaty TOA focused player early on. I was like clearing side towers at like level 80, stuff like that. But I was putting a lot of effort into it. Grinding a lot of echoes, doing a lot of that, like a lot of overworld farming, ton of that stuff. Believe me when I say this, getting gear, TOA stuff, all of that done in the present is so much easier than it was back then. Y'all out here, y'all new players, y'all don't know how good you got it. I'ma just be real. I'ma give it a buck. Y'all got like this shit, you got this shit, you got this shit, that. Like 17 fucking echo boxes, 7 million modifiers, like 300 different ways to grind echoes. You got like random boxes just shitting out echoes in Septimont. I don't know, like you got 1,000 gateways, you can just choose all of this shit. It's so easy to build units nowadays. I'm telling you, brother. It is so easy to build units now compared to in version 1.0. And they didn't even change tubes or tuners. All they did was just like change how fast it is to get echoes. That's pretty much it. I literally build characters like half asleep. And I'm shitting out double crit everywhere. Yeah, that phrasing is okay. All right, so you can probably just see what I'm talking about. You look at old 1.x footage of this game and like the upgrading and the gearing and all of that. There's so many more tools nowadays. It's gotten so much easier. Oh, you're missing the wrong main stat? Oh, don't worry. You'll just get 40 modifiers of version free to play to be able to change any echo into the main stat you want. It's like, brother, Jesus Christ. It's y'all are getting spoon-fed over here. I remember having to grind 3 days. Y'all know how long it would take to get just not even like a double crit piece, but like an arrow damage Sierra Gale 3 cost. Like, it could take you days to get one. Sometimes you could guarantee like 1 a patch and you'd be celebrating. I remember I would get like 2 of these a patch. I could now just farm like 50 of them if I wanted to.
Because they simply just didn't have the characters to complete it. So don't feel too bad if you're like a month into the game and tower feels impossible to take out. You're going to hit that wall just like everyone else. Don't worry about it.
And that's a wall that you're going to find in every gacha game, right? Oh, you weren't able to beat it because of resistance. Oh, you didn't have the right DPS. That's the developers wanting you to, A, pull more, spend more money. But also, in a way, it's also the developers trying to get you to not burn out. Because this is kind of like the situation. You would arguably start getting a little bit bored of the game in a game with with a bunch of different characters, right? 30 plus different characters, a bunch of different teams. If for every single content, all you did was play the same team and character combo over and over and over again for all 12 fights in the TOA, that would kind of feel a little bit stale over time, right? And in a way, this like limitation, energy, all of that is a dev getting you to build other characters on your account, experiment with different kits, try out different playstyles, and oftentimes you can find out, wait, this character actually feels really good. Wait, this character actually feels really cool. Oh, I want to try exploring this a bit more. And sometimes you got to be nudged as a player into doing that. That's why I don't think like a character restriction or like a need to have a wider roster to clear some of the endgame content isn't the worst thing ever. It's when it gets too restrictive, like in Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail, or honestly Zenless Zone Zero, where their endgames will literally say things like, if you're not using Mavawika or Skirk, you deal 70% less damage. If you're using Super Break, you deal 0 damage and you can't clear. If you're using Anomaly, just deal 30% less damage to the boss. WuWa just doesn't have mechanics like that. And that, I think, is what really makes that whole, like, horizontal investment requirement, not that bad to me. Because it's not like you can just get fucked beyond elemental or attribute resistance in this game. There's nothing beyond that. And that makes, again, the endgame experience feel a lot more freeing than it is restrictive, like it is in Hoiver's titles. Just think about elemental shields or Night Soul shields in Genshin. Or, you know, that one motherfucker bastard boss who, if you don't have freeze, he shoots lasers for 30 seconds. And if you do have freeze, he doesn't do anything the entire fight.
That is why I recommend focusing on planning for endgame as soon as possible to minimize the time it takes for you to actually clear it. Back to the point though.
And this is the thing. Clearing endgame as a player way earlier on in the game was a lot more sophisticated, a lot more tricky and nuanced because everybody was new to everything. But now that we've established a bit more, it should be a lot more clear how to do all of this stuff.
While new releases will almost always outperform old ones, you'll still want to keep an eye out for strong supports and attackers that get featured in reruns. I have a ton of videos talking about the best attackers in free-to-play teams, so after watching this one, I highly recommend you watch my other ones to get more information.
Or you can watch mine too. Watch Vars's as well. Watch everybody's, to be honest. We all got different opinions. Yeah, I think this is one thing that's important. Don't watch just one content creator's take on things like best teams, blah, 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 and so on, because we're all going to have different criterias for why we consider certain teams better than others. And, well, this is the thing. Some content creators might play the game or think about the game more similarly to the way that you think about it. You can have different priorities in this game and different ways to approach all the content. You should probably go with the one that resonates with you the most.
For the time being, Augusta, Phoebe, and Camellia are 3 very strong units to get and relatively easy to build as well.
I'm surprised you didn't put Carlotta on there.
3 of them handle tower pretty competently, and Augusta and Phoebe can take on hologram bosses with ease. Camellia, on the other hand, is a phenomenal option for Wuthering Waves. Unlike hologram, which focuses on bossing, and tower, where you're expected to take on a small number of enemies, Wuthering mandates you to take on multiple clusters one after another, so you want someone with enough sustained attack strength and area coverage to get you through it.
I can never really recommend Phoebe anymore because she's so dog shit in Wuthering Waves, it is unbelievable. She is like not even half a character in WuWa. She is like a quarter of a character in WuWa. She has such a severe lack of synergy with the game mode until you have a Chakona on her team that it is painful. Like, it's so bad. It's so fucking bad. It's illegally bad. And I think that pulling a character just to use them in TOA and holograms is not enough because she's not functional in the game mode. It's not like a Carlotta or a Jinsei situation where with enough skill, you can make them work. Phoebe just does not.
Wuthering Waves requires 2 parties. One section can easily be handled by a simple Camellia, Sanhua, and Shorekeeper or Verena team. For your other party,
Agreed.
If you hold Augusta, you can run Augusta, Mortifi, and Shorekeeper or Verena to handle that section. If you're watching this down the road, there will no doubt be other characters to pick from, so in the event of that, be sure to brush up on information.
Or you could just pull Gian and then have him clear the TOA and Wuthering Waves, but then he kind of gets booty tickled in holograms. I would say holograms are definitely the lowest priority out of all of these. And the reason why, basically my take is, if you plan on pulling based off of completion and being able to clear the game, that's a high priority for you. Don't consider holograms in your pulling decision. And the reason for that is quite simple. TOA and Wuthering Waves reset every month. Holograms don't reset. And each one gives you like 150 astrite. One TOA reset is like 800, and one WuWa reset's like 800. It's like literally like as a total, it's like 10 times more astrite is coming from TOA and WuWa than it is from holograms.
You can check out my character analyses, and or you can go over to my good friends Brax and Iwin to check out their guides as well.
I'm not popular enough, but this is kind of the situation. It's the sponsored early access guide circle. They're just humans centipeding each other for views. Absolutely unethical behavior going on over here, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Kuro sponsored CC circle. Just circle jerking each other off. What?
Once again, Pinewin's a great resource if you're a bigger fan of reading guides instead of watching them. Either way, to summarize, your target is to work on 2 bossing parties, 4 tower parties, and 2 Wuthering parties. That doesn't mean you need 8 different teams. Characters can work for multiple game modes. For example, Augusta can be good for all 3. Practically speaking, you only need 4 parties, but of course the longer you play, the more units you'll get and the more parties you can make.
I would say pull value tier lists as a whole that factor in TOA, WuWa, and Wuthering Waves is probably going to be the most helpful overall resource for players. And this is where I'll do my own self-plug editor, put that shit on the screen. I actually do go ahead and make those pretty frequently, most versions. And we do go over the whole viability and like WuWa, TOA, all of that stuff. So yeah, that's where I'll do my plug, because I think that I genuinely think that's actually the most overall helpful content when it comes to this specific line item of prioritizing team building. I'm just going to be honest over here. It's quality content. Go check it out.
That wraps it up. TLDR, spend the early game unlocking and progressing through as much of the storyline,
Okay, let's get the TLDR. Let's see if there are any final takes over here.
quests and world map as you can. Kill and collect every possible thing you can find, and be sure to level up your Echo databank and account rank as quickly as you can too.
Last bit of tip over here. You'll be able to identify literally in your databank what you're missing. And so if on your first pass you're following the VAR's advice and you're trying to like figure out, right, oh, what do I still need? I actually leave this one undiscovered for exactly this purpose. Because, well, when you're missing an Echo, you can just go into the Sonata gallery and then, well, look which one's missing, and then you'll be able to find it. Yeah, and then fill out your databank that way until everything, right, says it's at its cap. So that's another tip that you can do, especially if you're a newer one. I intentionally, again, leave that one empty. I know I'm missing an arrow prism. Stop tripping.
Then, once you reach the mid-game, work on getting a couple decent parties using the free units you acquire and the guaranteed stuff the game offers you as a new player.
I would dare say, bring forward that planning that he mentions for the late game into this mid-game category. Because, again, chances are, especially with units like Galbraina coming out, that'll step on Encore's toes and also dealing fusion damage, you want to make sure that you're not potentially investing in a character that's not going to get that much use either. Because, again, those time-limited resources are important.
Only spend what you need to as far as materials go, and continue progressing your databank and account level. Then, by the time you're able to get your units to level 80 or 90, now you can start working on gearing up teams for the endgame. Be sure to watch as many guide videos as you can, whether mine or other channels, to understand what the best teams and units are in the current time period. From then on, you just grind and keep getting more materials, more units, and there you go, you have now caught up with the rest of us. Now, despite me emphasizing progression and getting to the end game as quickly as possible, above all else, be sure to have fun doing it.
I would feel like the average amount of time it would take to progress to the stage where most day 1, day 0 players are at, it'll probably take you close to maybe 3 to 4 months, depending on how dedicated you are as a player. Yeah, I think 2 months if you're actually like balls to the wall, grinding, like playing like 10, like you just lost your job and like you're looking for something to do to fill the void. Yeah, that guy is probably going to catch up in like 2 months. Yeah, yeah, that guy's probably going to catch up in 2 months. Let's entirely be real here. But if you're taking it like more casually, you got school, other duties, stuff like that to like mess around with, probably closer to like 3 or 4. Because once again, right, so much of that progression is going to be tied to all the quests and stuff that you can do that all give UL level, all of that. And the faster that you get that initial grind out of the way, the faster you start getting into the late game echoes, the late game gear, all of that. And theoretically, by the time you unlock level 90 and have the ability to farm 5-star echoes and level them up, you shouldn't be falling behind in any degree at all. The only thing I would dare say you also need to think heavily about is this. And I think this is a big miss, and probably I should have mentioned this earlier. I forgot it too. Weekly bosses. Do not use too much of these materials before finding out what you need. Because A, there are some inherent skills for your supports that are mandatory. For example, right, I mentioned talking about restricting the investments you're making on some characters. You're still going to need Shorekeeper's inherent abilities, right? You're still going to need 2 weekly boss mats for that. You're still going to need Verina's first inherent at the very least. Save a boss mat for that. But aside from that, all of your other weekly boss mats that you're only going to get a limited number of a week, once again, this is one of the biggest constraints for players, you need to dedicate it to a DPS. You need to dedicate like 95% of your boss mats to your DPSs, And then the rest should be going into the inherent skills, right? Of like your supports and your sub DPSs. That's where they need to go. So yeah, I would say 90% into a DPS, 85 to 90% into a DPS, and then 15 to 10% into the supports and sub DPSs. Because once again, guys, you only get about 3 runs of those a week. And, well, you get a lot less at SOL 1, and you get a lot more as the phases go higher. Another trick for weekly bosses is that if you're somebody that's willing to grind your SOL phases, like I said, you can get to UL 40 in one day if you really go hard. Then that means you'll be able to unlock the increased drop rates for more weekly boss mats in one day as well. So that's another way for like a hyper turbo gamer to catch up too. Because this is also the other thing. Think about all the day ones that don't use their encore anymore, right? I'm not going to get back any of the weekly boss mats that I spent on her. It's not like it was wasted because I still used her in the endgame at some points, but this is how you're going to catch up as well. Because you'll be able to spend all of your stuff on exactly the things that you need. And once again, right, that's also why I mentioned the whole start your planning carefully, because weekly boss mats are a huge factor of it. Awesome video by Vars. I know we extended the runtime by about like 10 hours on this bad boy, but I really wanted to, you know, do like a thorough breakdown of some of the additional things that I feel like could have been added to this. I would just say as a whole, his advice is completely spot on, but there were like some additional spots where I felt like some more value could be added. So yeah, awesome vid overall. He just forgot to mention them weekly boss mats, because I feel like that is like one gray area that's actually really important, because it's the most time-gated thing that's in the game that I almost forgot about it too. Okay, I can't blame Vars for it slipping his mind. That'll be that for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you all thought. Peace.